place where Twisted Image doesn't touch it. So if Spellskite is going to be disruptive against Infect, it's more likely to be the case with Affinity bringing it in than any other deck.
Sure. Well, both these players are going to take a look at their opening hands here. Devin, Eckard will be on the play. Affinity, Infect, two decks that have been dominant this weekend here in Cincinnati. You know, for a while there, I think a Grand Prix Charlotte, where Grixis was kind of a dominant force that weekend. Various forms, Patrick Chapin's form with 4 copies of Cryptic Command and Grixis Twin and all that stuff, and that was really the deck to beat. Kolaghan's Command, all that power. It's weird, we don't even really see much of that this weekend.
I think the meta game has gotten a little bit too fast, and I think that a lot of these decks, the blue decks, are only justifiable if Cryptic Command and Mana Leak and cards like that Remand are very powerful. And the way these games are playing out, I mean, Cryptic Command is just too slow. These decks are too redundant for things like Mana Leak. And I think that's putting a real crimp on the blue decks in the metagame right now.
Verdant Catacombs is where Tyler Hill is going to start. You saw Eckard get off to a pretty quick start with a Signal Pest, an Ornithopter, and an Inkmoth Nexus. So we'll see what land Tyler wants to search up. He'll go with a Breeding Pool, as most Infect players do to start the game. Down to 17, he'll go. And it's going to be a Glistener Elf. Eckard will untap. He'll take a draw step here. He's got to get off to a fast start. Galvanic Blast in hand right now. Looks like a lot of red cards here for Devin.
Yeah, this is a hand that really needs a Mox Opal.
Yeah. He's got the Aether Grid in hand. Very powerful card.
If he's got the Opal, this hand's spectacular.
Yes.
He gets a fast Aether Grid and can also cast Galvanic Blast along the way. But if he's stuck without red mana, this hand doesn't do a whole lot.
Oh, there is a Signal Pest. There's the Opal. That's the big one. Galvanic Blast will take care of that.
And the leftovers in Eckard's hand right now are Aether Grid and Blood Moon.
Those
it's
are
a real good
leftovers.
set of cards.
Yeah. There's an Inkmoth Nexus. Here's another Glistener Elf. But if Eckard's able to draw a land here, the Aether Grid might end the game on the spot.
The Blood Moon also might end the game on the spot.
Yeah. Eckard doesn't look like he drew a land. Maybe another copy of Mox Opal, and that's okay.
He just has to decide which one he wants to lead with. Is the complicated part of this.
That's a Dismember. They'll take care of Signal Pest.
Tyler Hill with 2 copies of Forest in the deck. So Blood Moon is not quite a lock, but it's still very, very good.
Yeah, he actually just drew a land, so this is getting a little bit easier. You know, now Blood Moon, of course, is going to shut off his Nexus, both Inkmoth and Blinkmoth, but
that's fine.
Yeah, you're fine with that exchange because casting spells is pretty tough unless he actually drew a basic Forest. Might change the way he fetches for the next game. Here comes Glistener Elf. I'm going to block with Ornithopter. That'll get a counter on it. There's a Wooded Foothills. That's a mountain. Pass the turn back. Might be time for a little gridlock.
Love it.
Springleaf Drum is where he'll start. Now, in order for him to use the Springleaf Drum, he's actually got to tap a creature to use it.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be able to actually, there we go. He's got to be able to do that. So I think a bit of a misstep there. The drum isn't free like he thought it was because now he can't actually activate the grid.
Yeah, because his bottleneck is creatures.
Yeah. So there's your hang up there. Here comes Glistener Elf. Again, not a lot to fear here. You don't have to worry about crazy pump spells.
Yeah, 1 copy of Mutagenic Growth in the list. Everything else requires green mana.
Yep, not too concerned. There's a Mem Knight. That's a freebie for the grid. Pass the turn back. Here's an attack. I'm playing this one pretty safe. The grid will take care of the Glistener Elf. And now you can fire away for 1 point of damage up to Tyler Hill and then get a little aggressive with these creatures.
Yep. So activating the Nexus if you want to.
Oh, there will be no Nexus activations.
Oh, excuse me, Blood Moon.
Blood Moon is here. That said, I like an attack. Signal Pest will pump up the jam there on Mem Knight. The follow-up is a Vault Scourge.
Now he's got 2 pings set up.
Yep.
And Tyler's at 9, so we'll be going to game 3 in just a moment.
Soon enough, this is a player that's locked out. And if you've, we haven't really seen very many Blood Moon games here in Modern this weekend or many others. But this is what it's like. This is something that Affinity used to go to.
Yeah. 3 mana, one of which is red, is not the easiest thing for the deck to produce, but
another Signal Pest, another Inkmoth Nexus draw on Tyler Hill. Yeah, get a couple more draw steps. I think that was actually his last one because we're going to finish things off here. Take a draw, shoot you, finish it. Well, you got to finish him off with the grid.
yeah.
Come on. Attacking, kind of lame. Finishing off the grid, very nice. Devin Eckard going to win game number 2 here over Tyler Hill. Affinity, in fact, getting ready to go to game number 3. We'll take a look at those sideboards again for these players, and the reason for that, we get an idea of actually what Devin brought in. We know the Aether Grid's there. We have to imagine the Spellskites are there, and we know that the Blood Moons are there. And probably Whip Flare, maybe Wear Tear.
I like Whip Flare fine. I think Wear Tear is a little too narrow for this matchup.
Okay.
Eckard's not particularly concerned with Inkmoth Nexus. He has his own copies along with Blinkmoth Nexus and other incidental flyers. So
okay.
I don't think it's worth going through those kind of hoops to answer Inkmoth Nexus. But I think the Whip Flares, the Aether Grids, the Blood Moons, the Spellskites, they're all in.
Those are all pretty good options. As far as Tyler Hill's sideboard is concerned, 2 Relic Progenitus, the Spellskite, the Corruptor, the Spell Pierce, the 2 Twisted Images, Wall of Roots hanging out on the board, along with the Wild Defiance, a Dismember, Hurkyl's Recall, and 3 Nature's Claims.
So I think you're going to see the Hurkyl's Recall certainly come in alongside the 3 copies of Nature's Claim, 2 copies of Twisted Image, good answer to Signal Pest and Spellskite especially, and the Viridian Corruptor, very good against a deck with a bunch of artifacts in it.
Yeah. I think it can be a swingy matchup. Play draw dependent is what it feels like, though for Hill, he just got ran out that game.
The issue is, in the post-board games, Eckard with Gearpar, Aether Grid, and Blood Moon does bring some cards to the table that can end the game on the spot. That's something he's lacking in the first game. And as such, he's forced to just sort of race. And Tyler Hill's Infect deck is going to race much better than Affinity on average, especially when Tyler's on the play. Post-board, if Eckard can slow the game down, make it a little sloppy, which Affinity's pretty good at doing, can flood the board, then things like Gearpar, Aether Grid, or Blood Moon can steal the game.
Well, these players are going to shuffle up here. It'll be Tyler Hill on the play. He'll take a look at his opening hand. I don't want to make it this simple, but it might be all about Blighted Agent.
Well, Tyler does have some artifact removal in the deck. So he can use Glistener Elf and Inkmoth Nexus to some effect, but I agree with you, Blighted Agent is the key there. The problem is, post-board Blighted Agent gets a little bit worse because it's a slower threat, and you're playing against Gearpar Aether Grid. So if you're too slow, that card can bury you.
You're playing against a grid, you're playing against Whip Flare that may have come in.
Right.
Yeah. Galvanic Blast, we know is a main deck card, even though there are only 2 copies. Breeding Pool is where Hill will start. Let's see how explosive of a start Eckard has here. Step 1 is Ornithopter. How about another? Glimmer Void. Springleaf Drum. Signal Pest. Pretty explosive. Red cards in hand, too, by the way.
A Clock, a removal spell. It's a good mixture of cards.
Can't ask for too much more. Thought about sacrificing Wooded Foothills. Maybe not. He will sacrifice Wooded Foothills now.
I think it's very important for Tyler to take this opportunity to go get a forest if he can afford to do it.
And he just did. Do not want to get just colded by Blood Moon again.
Yeah, Eckard's threatening it next turn.
Now there's Blighted Agent. That's the big one. However, Eckard does have a copy of Galvanic Blast in hand. Ready for the unblockable threat. Arcbound Ravager in hand here for Devin as well. I don't think you want to get too cute if you can avoid it. Here come the beatdowns for 2 because of the signal past the Battle Cry trigger. Now there is the Galvanic Blast. We go back to Tyler Hill. We'll see if he's got another infect threat. Picked up a copy of Gataxian Probe.
The problem is that it kind of has to be Blighted Agent.
Yeah.
Because Eckard is producing a sea of blockers. The upshot is at least Tyler has a copy of Apostle's Blessing in hand. So if Eckard's on nothing but artifacts, there's a route to sneak through lethal. But he's going to probably get just one shot at it.
Well, this is definitely something. It's an Etched Champion, a Galvanic Blast, and an Arcbound Ravager. Viridian Corruptor, the draw there for Hill. I'm going to play a copy of Inkmoth Nexus, but you saw that he actually paid for the Gataxian Probe, so he can't even play something like Corruptor this turn.
Yeah, Corruptor was the 1/3 mana spell that punishes him in that spot.
Looks like Gear Power Aether Grid was the draw here for Eckard. See what's next here for Devin. He's working on a shortage of mana. You can feel he kind of wants to leave up that Galvanic Blast. Doesn't really want to commit to Ravager at this point.
But his clock is so slow if he's just chipping in for 2 a turn here. And he can't even really do that anymore.
Because he's just going to come in for 1 this turn. I like trying to get Ravager on the battlefield. Speed up the clock a little bit. You do leave yourself open, but, you know, how open?
I like Eckard taking that spot to speed things up, though.
I think you have to. I don't think you can chip away for 2 points of damage and hope it's going to be good. Kind of play this control game. You take the opportunity, speed up your clock a little bit, then maybe you can turtle back up.
Yep.
And there's not even a guarantee he has to turtle back up. Tyler Hill being asked to make a play here.
The problem is now with Ravager in play, Viridian Corruptor is just a much less effective tool.
Yep.
The only real route that he can take with this is kill the drum. That's really the only unique piece of the puzzle that Eckard has in play. Try to pin him on mana and hope to overwhelm him.
He's going to go after the Ravager. We're going to see where the +1/+1 counter goes.
Players in the standard 5K Premier.
Just going to put it on a signal pest.
That is time in the round against
Pass the turn back.
players. That is time.
Eckard will draw. Picked up another copy of Ornithopter. And we know what's in his hand. Got an Aether Grid, Galvanic Blast. Got some powerful red cards for the matchup. He's going to give the beatdowns here. So 3 points total. Follow up as an Ornithopter. Just pass the turn back. Can't forget about the Etched Champion over there in Devin's hand as well, though there's not much he can do with it at this point.
But now Tyler gets start mounting some amount of an offense here. On top of that, he has Blighted Agent in hand, which means that even if Eckard slows things down and starts chump blocking, he can just go with Noble Hierarch in hand plus the Blighted Agent. He also has a copy of Apostle's Blessing in hand, so he has protection, or in the event that the Alpha Strike becomes juicy to do with Corruptor because of the way the math works out, he has that line of play as well.
There's Noble Hierarch. Here's an attack with an Exalted Trigger. Things are getting a touch interesting here. Does Eckard want to maybe cash in this Galvanic Blast? Remember, he only plays 2.
This line of play, if he doesn't use it here, becomes pretty rough if Tyler plays the Blighted Agent post-combat. Because I think he's trying to sit on this Galvanic Blast for as long as possible to try to trip Tyler up into a spot where he's using a pump spell.
It looks like, okay, there we go. Eckard going to take the 3 Infect, and now there's Blighted Agent.
And the problem is now that Devin's hand's going to be forced because he can no longer block the Blighted Agent, or the Infect threat, rather, wait for Tyler to play something, and then use the Galvanic Blast. I am positive if Eckard knew that Tyler was going to play a Blighted Agent post-combat, he would have chumped the Corruptor this turn. He would not have taken that hit.
Eckard very unsure about how he wants to use this removal spell. Going to go after Blighted Agent. That's going to bite the dust.
But now you look at the math here. You got 3 coming across from the Corruptor with an Exalted trigger. 3 that Eckard already took. Apostle's Blessing plus a 4 pump spell is lethal.
Groundswell.
Yeah.
Might of Old Crozier. Become Immense is more than enough. Here come the beatdowns again. Whip Flare was the draw. Well, you got to give that Corruptor protection. I would think. He does have Ink Moth Nexus back there.
And I think that Eckard should have probably waited to see what the outcome of this Whip Flare was going to be before making any attacks. Because now his shields are down.
Yep.
And it's possible that if Tyler had, let's say, uses Apostle's Blessing, saves one of his creatures, he would have again wanted to chump block with Ornithopter this turn.
He's just trying to figure out how he wants to use the Blessing, if he's going to use it at all. And he actually has Groundswell in hand.
So I think this is going to be...
This should be lethal, yeah?
On count 2 from the Corruptor, a Nexus he can activate.
Yeah.
Two Nexuses he can activate, plus a Groundswell is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah.
As long as he doesn't miss it, this should be lethal. Sacrifice the fetch land. He's moving a little bit quicker now.
Yeah, I think that Devin needed to play this Whip Flare first and see what happened.
It would definitely, if that happens where Apostle's Blessing saves the Corruptor and Ornithopter probably doesn't come in, maybe nothing comes in.
Holds back something.
Yeah. Nature's Claim the draw for the turn. Gonna fire both copies of Inkmoth Nexus. Here's a Groundswell. It's been triggered with Landfall. And that is going to do it. Tyler Hill is going to win this match over Devin Eckard 2-1. Infect takes down Affinity, and we're going to have an all-Infect mirror.
Should be over very fast.
Probably will be.